りおしまい。
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Get the Mic, the only show where your host on the left, Owl,
and your host on the right, Brock,
dissect fiction for its mythological significance. On this episode, we're going to be talking about Dragon Ball as usual, and in particular, episode 121, which is called The Biggest Crisis, or Son Goku, Final Crisis. I think we are going with The Biggest Crisis for the thumbnail. There's really no difference in the spirit of it, though.
Yeah, it is a big crisis.
It is a big crisis. So there we go. Is it a final crisis? See, I don't know. Maybe the biggest crisis is slightly better because final, and then, next
in the
episode
final analysis.
Final. But anyways, before we get started with the episode proper, if you like what you hear during the show, please give us a like. Subscribe to our channel. We upload new episodes Mondays and Thursdays to YouTube, Tuesdays and Fridays to Rumble, so check us out on those platforms. Anything else before we get into it?
No.
Check out our other video on the Souls community. I'll just plug that real quick.
Oh, yeah, we have some different content coming out.
Yes, and we're going to try and continue doing some of that. And we'll probably incorporate some Dragon Ball into it as well for our fans that like Dragon Ball and want to see us talk more about Dragon Ball, particularly in the community. So, all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. This is episode 121, The Biggest Crisis. So Piccolo starts the episode by proclaiming his victory and turning his attention to Tien. However, before the Demon King can finish the already weakened warrior, Goku begins to use his Kamehameha wave from the bottom of the pit. Piccolo, confident in his ability to face his own mode of being, prepares for the blast, saying that the wave won't work on him, only for Goku to curve it around him at the last moment and hit him in the back of the head. With King Furry watching on, it is clear that Goku has the upper hand in this struggle. And so really here, the Kamehameha wave is really the sticking point here. But I think even in the last episode, because it kind of combines, right? Like we see in the last episode, right before it cuts, him starting to call out the Kamehameha wave. We don't see him use it. In this one, we really see him use it. It's kind of weird how they edited that way, but it's whatever. But I do want to mention, in the last episode, Piccolo declares that there's actually no one who can stand up to him, and that's what I was meaning by him proclaiming victory before turning to Tien. And so that is something he says right before this is used against him. And that's important because it's really, it's using the association, right, of those clips put together, and so you see Piccolo saying that, and then you see Goku using the Kamehameha wave.
Yeah, and the Kamehameha wave is really creating what we've said before, using the logos to create order, sort of out of an unrealized chaotic situation, right? But the thing is that it's fully realized for Piccolo, and so for Piccolo to attack Goku in the way that he did, uh, basically by trying to go all out on him by revealing his power, it's almost to come up from behind him. And Goku uses the Kamehameha wave on him, then and it swerves around him and hits him in the back. And I think it's after he asks him if he's some sort of monster. I can't remember if it's before or
No,
after
that
that.
that's after. I think he says, "Are you some sort of monster?" after he hits him with this.
Yeah.
But right, and we've been saying that the Kamehameha wave is the logos, the symbolic representation of the logos in Dragon Ball. And so, even though Piccolo is able to face his own mode of being, there is something that he's not willing to admit, and that is that there are people who can stand up to him. And
And that have integrated that into themselves such that Goku has, right? He doesn't want to believe that
which is
Goku could act like him,
right, which
could
is why he
integrate
can
his mode of being, right?
curve it around and hit
That's why
Piccolo
he
in
catches
the
him
back
from
of the head.
behind, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a surprise to him. Like what he did was he surprised Goku with his power, so Goku surprises him back with his ability to also wield that kind of power. So it's kind of a symbolic thing that
Is
Goku
it that
does
he
back at
wields
him.
that, or is he pointing out that he can stand up? Because I was thinking it was
I mean, I consider those to mean the same thing,
okay,
really.
okay. Uh,
Because in order to be able to stand up to him, you have to be able to integrate his
right,
mode of
right,
being.
right, right, right. But it's also the idea of Piccolo proclaiming his invincibility and then getting hit in the back of the head where he cannot see, for
But
example.
specifically, this being Piccolo's real power, because this is sort of he's finally powered up, right? So it's surprising to Piccolo to be able to be surprised by Goku's power now that he's revealed himself for what he really is, because he this is the final stopgap of him saying I'm categorically above you. So it is surprising. It does catch him from behind that this could even work on him in any semblance of a way. Like it doesn't destroy him, right? But instead of damaging him with it, he damages his pride with it, right? That's what Goku does to Piccolo as he comes up against him,
And
right? And
it's
that's what he clings to. So Piccolo being able to be surprised by it is how the attack actually lands on him.
interesting because I was thinking it was more of him not paying attention to the fact that there are people who can wield the malice that he has, right?
Hmm.
Which is kind of
Yeah,
we're
that's
in
what
the
the
same
power
spirit,
level is. Yeah.
but it's the fact that I'm just focusing on it. I think that's what we're getting caught up
Yeah.
on is I'm focusing on it from a Piccolo centric point of view, and you're
Hmm.
focusing on it from a Goku point of view, right? You're saying Goku is wielding this thing
Well, it's somewhat
and
Piccolo
surprising him,
centric because
but
the way that I'm trying to point it out is the reason that it would be that attack, a Kamehameha wave that's curved around and smacks him in the back, right? That it's not just like not it's not arbitrary. That it's
well, no, it's
symbolic
sir.
of what
I think
Goku's
we're
doing
obviously
by
past
showing
that point,
Piccolo
right?
that he's integrated that malice into himself, right? And the fact that the hero could have that level that he's just revealed that he has integrated already is what surprises him, right? And that hurts his pride even if it can't physically damage him.
I mean, he does say though later, Goku says that it was like a warning shot,
Hmm.
basically, right? Because
Yeah.
there's definitely I believe that there is a level to which the logos could operate, which would destroy Piccolo,
Yeah.
which is the whole idea of the Kamehameha wave getting stronger. But I was just wanting, and I think that's where I was coming from. It was that it was his own blindness, and he has to proclaim first that there's no one who can stand
Hmm.
up against him
Exactly. Yeah.
for this to happen.
Yeah. So it's
So
a setup
yeah.
and then a fall, right?
Yeah, and you're right because you're right in the fact that it's more hurting his idea of himself. It's more of a
Yeah.
psychological attack that Goku's using, and that's why he says it's a warning shot. Right? It's not meant to take him out. It's meant to show him that he's
You're not
wrong.
invincible.
Yeah,
Yeah. You're not immune
to
to
make the
my
god believe.
expression of the logos, right?
Exactly. And so then they square up again, and that's when Piccolo says, "What are you, some kind of
Yeah.
monster?" And Goku says, "I could say the same to you," but it doesn't. for Goku saying that, it makes sense, but Piccolo, you would think he knows what being a monster is, and he's recognizing that in Goku, right? And that's really that idea that we've been going through about keeping one's sword sheathed, right? Uh, and but being able to use it. So let's go ahead and move on. Oh no! All right, so meanwhile, the Go crew are still inbound to the battleground. While on the news reports, they inform our Go crew of the happenings at King's Castle. After hearing that Piccolo is stuck at the castle, Bulma mentions that it's time to turn around and run. Additionally, the king is finally convinced to flee to safety. While the news report continues to describe Goku, both Oolong and Bulma wonder if he could be alive, the chance of which inspires hope. So let's break these down one at a time. First, Bulma wanting to run. I just want to mention this quickly. Uh, After she realizes that Piccolo is still there, it's kind of to say, right? I mean, she was all rearing and ready to go from Kame House, but now that like Piccolo's still there and she's getting closer to actually facing up to the chaos in the world, she's like, maybe I don't actually want to do this.
Yeah.
And it is also what ties her to Oolong, and we'll see that later on because we see them have the exact same reaction. It really, this arc goes a long way in continuing to tie Bulma and Oolong together. And so her wanting to run shows that cowardice that she is capable of and that she needs to overcome, and we'll see how that happens later on. But I just wanted to mention that right now.
Yeah, it is Bulma's always torn between those two though, you know. It's what characterized her whole storyline whenever we went into the pirates, right?
Oh
And sort
yeah.
of the facing of fear. And so I think at this point, yeah, because launch is back to blue.
Yes.
And that's sort of one of those things where it's like, maybe I don't need to be going in here and putting myself in physical danger in the protection of the heroic spirit. Maybe the heroic spirit is strong enough to stand up on its own. And that's sort of she's intuiting that as the spirit that launches that's accompanying her and Yamcha on the way to this situation it has expressed itself through
Hmm.
launch, right?
Through her being blue, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And even if I'm not so sure that Balma knows that. I think that's why she's like, "Let's run," because now
Yeah.
we don't have blonde launch around, right? And it's showing a flaw in her in the morality of her character, and it ties in with Bulma and Oolong in the end because even though there is that impetus to cowardice,
Well, I wouldn't say necessarily that this is an expression of a flaw in her moral character. Gi- Given that it's a case of this is what would be wise for Bulma anyway. If she goes over here, she's going to die. If she tries to intervene while it's going on, she'll die. If she shows up and Goku hasn't won, she'll die. She's a witness, and so in reality, it would be best for her not to be trying to fight this fight. Now, Yamcha and his call to try to defend the world and his participation in the hierarchy is different, but
but
Bulma doesn't have a that same
no,
impetus,
but Bulma being there, the mode of being that she's
right?
supposed to.
At least be accompanying Yamcha on this
Right. I mean, that's
confrontation.
what I
Yeah,
mean. Like she is supposed to go there. She
yeah, but I
should go
think
there.
I think that her wanting to run is more of saying in this instance is more reasonable and isn't her just trying to abandon Yamcha as much as she's like this
Well,
is
she doesn't even want to abandon Yamcha. She
yeah
wants
she's
Yamcha to
like this is a
also run.
dangerous
But
mission.
that's the thing.
It's kind of that fight or
Don't you
flight.
see that part of it where she's trying to
Yeah,
even get Yamcha to not go?
yeah,
She's like, let's all turn around and
yeah.
go.
Because if it looked more like she was like, okay, you can go try to defend the world, Yamcha. This is too scary for me. That'd be one thing. But the mission itself, she's questioning now.
Yeah. But it's redeemed at the end of at the end of this section of clips because with Goku being alive, because remember before that, when she says it's time to run, that's before she knows that Goku is even alive.
Mm-hmm.
But the inspiration she gets from finding out that Goku could be alive, her and Oolong both
Yeah,
experience the same thing, inspires her to go on. She doesn't really
right.
say anything about running after that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because now she knows that's what's going on, and that she believes in Goku's ability to
Yeah,
set the world in order.
I think fight or flight is actually kind of close to the mark when you think about it. especially whenever you have like blue and blonde launch here. It's sort of it's become very polar. Like in a situation like Piccolo, that's all you have left is you have fight or flight. You can't be neutral on a moving train, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
And so there is this binary fight or flight sort of situation that's going on. And so as soon as the hero is established as a moralizing um a moralizing agent, then it sort of rebalances here. And so she can maintain her fight instead of just
Yeah.
going full flight mode, right?
Yeah, the strength of her spirit, right? And she also mentions Baba, right? She says that Baba once predicted that
That he
Goku
would
would be a
save the
great
world, yeah.
hero in the time, right? So that also gives them some hope, all the, or at least the two ladies and um Yamcha, because it's not the whole Go crew that are in there.
Mhm.
And we've already talked about that because this is an instantiation of like the reality of things where Oolong and Puar can't join.
Right.
Even Turtle can't join because he's not in that
Yeah,
either.
this is not the same as Pilaf's castle,
Yeah,
where
exactly.
they played an instrumental role.
Yes. And so, let's go ahead and go on. But this time, I'm not going to mess up my thing. So, back in the battle, Piccolo uses a distraction to fire his eye beams at Goku's leg, incapacitating the limb. Upon seeing this weakness, Piccolo charges only to be struck again, with Goku using his power pole to propel himself forward. Furious at this, Piccolo powers up, using his finger beams to knock away Goku's heirloom. Then, using his full strength, the Demon King sends a blast at Goku, causing a mushroom cloud to erupt in the air. The victims of Piccolo and the King, as in King Furry, both feel the shock waves of the blast, and Launch points it out to Yamcha and Bulma as they approach King's Castle proper. So there's a couple things here.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the distraction, which inhibits Goku's attention, is what allows Piccolo
To
to,
use his
yes,
attention to wound Goku.
to incapacitate his limb. And
Yeah.
it's to say it's keeping him from moving, right? It's keeping him from moving well even.
Yes.
And so,
Which is it's a question of power of vision, right?
mhm. And Piccolo has that malicious vision. Like that's what we see. We see his eye beams. That's what eye beams really are to begin with. And so he uses that, and it actually is able to incapacitate Goku's leg because Goku he he didn't even really need to block that
It
stone. He could have just
it
batted it
always
away. But
happens this way, right? That it happens in the instance that there's like a distraction, right?
mhm,
This happens all the time, this type of thing.
yes, and that's for the reason is because Goku has shut his eyes to what is before him, right?
Right.
For a brief second, and that's to say, like Marduk has eyes all the way around his head, right? Goku should also do that.
Right.
Um, and that's the thing. Goku, as we know from the past few episodes, has just begun to sense ki energy, as it said in the show.
Which is seeing truthfully, right?
And
And
well,
not
what
just
I was
seeing with
saying
your
with that
eyes.
is he should have been able to see that
Yeah.
coming, right?
Yeah,
But
we're saying see as in
he
uh,
should be able to sense that.
sense and see are essentially the same thing whenever
Yes.
you're actually looking at it through this framework, right?
Right, exactly. And so he should be able to, but he doesn't, and so that is the weakness of his vision that incapacitates his ability to move. And so then him being in like a stationary position, that's when Piccolo uses like the Mecha Godzilla, like firing all his finger beams, right, multiple times until he knocks. Oh wait, not yet, not yet. He's standing there, and so Piccolo sees the weakness, and he's kind of like a shark that smelled blood, right? He like charges right away to follow up on it, and it's something I'll say about criticism of Dragon Ball Z. Like, oh, they're just charging up. Why don't they ever take advantage of the opponent's weakness? It's like they do.
It does happen.
It happens. And so he charges him. But Goku uses the Noibo here.
Yeah, this is clearly symbolic, right? Goku has the Noibo to lean on whenever his ability to walk is damaged.
Yes. When the hero's vision or the hero's gaze fails him, right, he can still lean on the ancestral power that he has mastered over his time in, let's say, the underworld.
Right. And this is an artifact that connects Goku to another. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but it is a
Yeah,
cosmic
not too
pole
yet.
because it extends
Yes.
forever, right?
Yes.
And it's explicitly said it's the pole that extends forever. And so there's something about this pole that is endless. And so Goku can tap into that in his weakness and still stand up against Piccolo.
Yeah, and so he knocks Piccolo again, and that's when Piccolo uses like his finger beams to knock away the power pole, right?
Of course, Piccolo knowing,
Knowing that's his strength, right?
yeah, knowing what it is and how to put his attention on it properly, he can immediately knock it away from Goku.
And so now Goku cannot move well, and Piccolo, capitalizing on this, is going to overwhelm him with destruction and malice. That's his plan, anyways. And so he sends a blast at Goku, and a huge eruption happens. The biggest one we've seen in the series,
It's
easily by
it's
far.
basically a nuclear blast.
Yeah. And so like it even, I mean, Sano and 8 are miles away, and it like blows out the windows and wherever they are, and it rocks the king's hover car as he's trying to fly away and all that. So it's a huge blast, and it's meant to be that way. And it's I think the mushroom cloud is not an accident,
No.
because as we've talked about in our myth and meaning series, in our very first episode of that, we talked about how the historical context of Japan and the rise of anime really set the stage for Dragon Ball. And so the mushroom cloud, right, is seen as something pretty malicious, and it's used here to encapsulate all the malice that's involved in that and bear it down on Goku in one blast.
Yeah, and it's with it being sort of the cap on Piccolo, it's sort of the greatest expression of evil that they can come up with.
Yes.
It is like that we can come up with as human beings. Thinking of using something the power of a nuclear blast maliciously is
Right, because
such a high level of evil.
we're still in the earthly domain, but that
Yes,
is the highest what we conceive here in the earthly domain, right? Basically,
exactly. And so that's what Piccolo is he's this is sort
hell
of
on earth.
catching up to our capacity to wreak havoc and create hell
Mm-hmm.
in current days.
Yeah, and so he does that, and he launches it against Goku. Now, the last thing I want to mention here is Launch pointing it out to Yamcha and the ladies. She being the intuitive and let's say more motherly, nurturing. She's the one that's going to be alarmed to this first, and she points it out as they're like talking about something. I'm pretty sure they're distracted by something, and she's like, "Look," and then they see that huge blast,
Right.
and they still continue to approach, which is good. Anything else here?
I don't think so.
It's pretty succinct, pretty well done. I think what Brock said was well said. So, the next thing, Piccolo's mighty attack has leveled everything in the vicinity, causing him to rejoice in Goku's demise. However, he senses that Goku is alive and finds that Tien has saved him from the blast. Though the young man is exhausted from the effort, Goku then approaches Piccolo, attacking him fiercely when the Demon King is trying to charge his next attack. Despite Goku's efforts, though, Piccolo still has enough energy to use his explosive wave again. Leaving a massive crater, Piccolo thinks he is finally done with this fight. However, Goku's voice rings out of the pit, calling for the keen tone. The fight is not over yet. And that's where we leave the episode off. So a couple things to talk about here. Like we said earlier, and this, it's so great that the episode starts with this, and then some of the very last things resolve those. So if you remember in the beginning of the episode, Piccolo basically is like, "No one can defeat me," and then Goku's like, "Yes, people can defeat you," and then he's like, "Well, darn, what are you, some kind of monster?" But now when Piccolo thinks he's won, he doesn't say no one can defeat me. in fact, he takes a second and like realizes that he hasn't won instead of getting ahead of himself there. And it shows that Piccolo is also, even though Piccolo is interacting here with Goku in a what do I want to say, antagonistic way, it's still drawing Piccolo's attention to the right things, and that's what Goku always does to people.
Yeah, and also that is what Piccolo is, like a fallen angel, right? Piccolo is very Luciferian in
Definitely,
that
yes,
sense, and
yeah,
so he still has that capacity for sight. He has to have that capacity for sight so that he can have that capacity for evil. And
right. It
so
doesn't.
Goku's ability to refocus his attention is
Mhm.
actually, it makes Piccolo realistic, makes him actually believable as a villain.
Right, and it's just through this ability here where he, instead of doing the same thing from the beginning and being like, "Oh, I'm a mustache twirling villain," he adjusts to Goku's mode of being and realizes that he hasn't won.
Hmm.
Right, and then that's when he finds Goku in the sky above him, right, flying with Tien. Now Tien can save him here because Tien has taken steps upon the spiritual path such that he can elevate his spirit and take Goku with him and avoid the, what do I want to say, the dangers of being on like the earthly plane.
Right. It at this point Goku hasn't mastered flying in the same way, and we see after this the same thing happens again, but with the Quinto Un whenever he needs to be saved from a situation like this. And so we see that Tien can elevate his spirit to get outside of this pit that Goku's being dragged into by Piccolo,
Hmm.
and Goku can with the help of the Quinto Un,
Yeah, Goku has the ability to as well, just
but not in the same way that
not
Tien does at this point.
right. It's disembodied still.
Yeah.
That's how we'll say it. Um, and so then Goku starts like limping towards Piccolo, and Piccolo tries to charge up. And this is another thing that people say all the time. They're like, "Oh, when they're charging up, they never attack." And it's like Goku does that right here. Stops
Goku does it
Piccolo.
back.
What?
He does it back.
Yeah. And so Goku isn't able though he because of the way that because of Piccolo's spirit instantiated, he's not able to actually kill Piccolo outright here.
Okay, well, I want to point out
Go ahead.
specifically why, because it's the same thing that happened the last time that Piccolo thought he struck him down, okay? So I talked a bit about the bending of the Kamehameha wave and surprising Piccolo and damaging his pride, right? So now Goku starts limping towards Piccolo and it scares Piccolo. He jumps back.
Is that here or is that later?
I think it was here, right? Like there's a whenever he starts limping towards him, it shows him like taken aback by him. And then he kind of refocuses himself.
I thought that was after this, after he survives the thing. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. Go on though.
But either way, it doesn't. Goku rushes in to interrupt him this time, right? To take him by surprise. But it doesn't work this time. He tries to have a
No.
surprise.
He's pretty confident still here. He's not afraid yet.
Then it's just
It's later on.
the next
time.
iteration
Yeah.
of him doing the same thing again because
Yeah.
it does this 3 times in a row. But it's a repetition of the pattern of Goku trying to get in there and surprise him, right? Especially after Piccolo jumped at his weakness, right?
Well, and it's not only that. The surprise comes from Goku's courage, right? I mean,
Mhm.
he, after that attack, right? He's confident that Piccolo's lost enough energy to where he can withstand the next attack, and Piccolo is surprised by that. It's not a shock that scares him, not yet, but exactly that, and it stops him from it, but it doesn't actually stop him from doing the attack because he uses it. He uses his explosive wave again, and Goku blocks it, as
Mhm.
far as we know. And so that's when he's in that massive crater. He calls out to the Quinto, needing to elevate his spirit out of the pit that malice and destruction has left him in, right?
Right.
But I think that's actually leaves us off to really the end. Um, we will have next episode to kind of wrap things up on this.
Yep.
Anything you want to add?
Just tying up the last point that I was saying, where, the reason that it doesn't work specifically,
The reason why what doesn't work?
why
Goku's attack.
Goku's attack
Yeah.
trying to stop him powering up doesn't work, is that the last time that Goku sort of caught Piccolo off guard with his bravery in the face of the revelation of his power. Um, Piccolo learned from it because, like we were saying, Piccolo can
Yes.
adjust his attention towards Goku, and that's why he's such a good villain and why he's so dangerous is because he can do that.
Yeah, it's not um Piccolo's at the point where he's not going to overlook Goku like some
Yeah,
other villains that we've seen in the past.
he's very intelligent, and he's of that sort of mindset that's like fool me twice, right?
And so he doesn't get he doesn't get fooled again. I was
Hmm.
about to say the George Bush quote. Anyways, don't even worry about that. So, yeah, and I think that's a good place to end it off. So, if you guys liked this episode, please give us a like, subscribe to our channel. We upload new episodes Mondays and Thursdays to YouTube and Tuesdays and Fridays to Rumble, so check us out on those platforms. I've been your host on the Left Owl.
I've been your host on the right, Brock.
I wish you guys a good evening.